Hey everybody, Pete A. Turner, executive producer and host of The Break It Down Show. I'm going to be fast today. Our guest is Victoria Taft from the OAN network. It's a news network out in San Diego, and she has been a reporter for decades. Grew up wanting to be a reporter. Used to play as if she was one, under the bed with the fake microphone talking. That's how deeply steeped she is in this. She's always known what she wanted to do, so it's fantastic to have her on. Joining me as co-host is our co-producer, co-plank holder, award-winning, best-selling author, Scott Huesing. So we sit outside in San Diego and have a great conversation about the news, about life, about just being adults, but also about politics and trying to figure out and sort out what's reality. One of the things I like about Victoria is she's respected because she's honest. She doesn't try to sell you something. And we need more of that in the world. We need people that talk about things critically and fairly and don't throw a bunch of adjectives in that are misleading. Victoria does that. She prides herself in it. She gets things right. You can find out more about her at victoriataft.com. Now, what about Scott? Well, you could just type in Echo and Ramadi and you'll see him on all social media. You can get him on Instagram, probably the best place. You can always find me and I will direct you to whoever it is that you want to talk to, Pete at breakitdownshow.com. Now, if you want to support this show and you're new to the show, let's understand this. Today, we've got a reporter from the OAN network. Later on today, I will be in LA recording with a world famous producer of music, someone whose music you've all heard of. Friday, we got this guy, Miles, coming on, who works with the Burma Free Rangers in Syria and is also a foreign weapons expert. And his episode is fascinating. You will not hear that anywhere else. So here's what we do at the Break It Down Show. One, we stand up tall right in the middle. Don't care about left, don't care about right. We're looking for sanity. We're looking to gather people in the middle. But we also are telling these incredible stories like Miles' story, like Victoria's story. Earlier this week, we had Jerome Preisler and Jim D. Felice on the show. World-class best-selling authors whose careers are enviable to anybody who writes books. And we had those guys. We move it all around all the time. So if you like to have a variety, you like to have an array of shows on an array of topics, combat warriors, authors, PhDs on a variety of topics, that's what we do here. All right, you're going to love today's episode with Victoria Taft. She is awesome. Here's another way you support the show. Subscribe, rate, review. Get those 5 stars going. Get those ratings going. Those things help. All right, one last thing, and you know what I'm going to say next. Save the Brave, savethebrave.org. Go to the donate tab, put a small amount of money in each month, $10, $15, $25. We'll come in, we'll take that out through PayPal, and we'll put it to work saving veterans' lives who have PTSD. This stuff works. We're getting veterans in the games at the LA Lakers. Chad Prather gives out tickets. Jay Moore gives out tickets to their comedy shows. We also take guys deep sea fishing. This money is a small part of what we do. We get a lot of things comped, but that money helps keep us doing new things, bigger things, getting more attention so we can help more veterans. That's ultimately the goal. SaveTheBrave.org. All right, and here comes Victoria Taft.
Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay Moore.
This is Greg Proops.
This is Jordan Harbinger.
This is Dexter from The Offspring.
This is Nathan
This is
East.
Sebastian Younger.
This is Rick Marotta.
This is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mick Gillette.
This is Andy Summers.
Hey, this is Skunk Baxter.
This is Gabby Reese.
This is Rob Bell.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
Hi, I'm Victoria Taft, and you're listening to The Break It Down Show.
And now, The Break It Down Show with John Leon Guerrero and Pete A. Turner.
Yes, you are. We're here in lovely San Diego with Sam
Gorgeous.
Dog.
Yeah.
Looking at Scott Huesing and with Victoria, who's from the OAN network.
Yeah, One American News, and I'm just one of the small guys there helping out on the Daily Ledger program with Graham Ledger, a guy I've known for years, and he puts an old lady like me on the air every once in a while, and I anchor for him when he's out of town or come on and talk about crazy California. I also have been in broadcasting for 30 years and have had my own talk show in Oregon and for a number of years and fill in Southern California. Plus, I'm doing my own podcast called the Adult in the Room podcast.
Oh, okay.
And I also am doing audiobooks. So I have decided that instead of Obama losing me a job in the downturn of 2008 to oblivion, I decided to make my own job.
That's what people do nowadays.
Yes, they do.
And I want to get into your talk show, but what's new in your life? Like, what's going on? Anything interesting?
The word on my mind today in coming here to meet with you guys is preparedness. This is the word of the day for me. First, I couldn't find my car key. It's not the dumbest thing. And yesterday, when I took it off the key ring, I said, you need to put it back on the key ring.
Yes.
Did I?
No.
No. But I usually put it one of a few places, and the key was nowhere to be found. Nowhere to be found. Fortunately, my husband had a key, and of course, he had it in the key department, right? No, that would be wrong. No, he had it in the bathroom. So, okay, it worked. Here I am. Then I realized that since I couldn't find my key, that finding the key came later after I decided to take my son-in-law's truck. He parks it over at our house. And so I thought, oh, okay, well, I'll just take my son-in-law's truck. This is great. This is wonderful.
Yeah.
And so I knew it had a dead battery, but I also knew we have a little WeGo thing, and that which is at gold. I mean, if you ever know of anybody who's getting married or needs a really terrific gift, Costco sells another version of it, and it's an automatic battery jumper, and plus it will do your phones as well. Okay, so that's an aside. But so I pull that bad boy out, and I go, oh, okay, well, this is going to be fine. I'm still not going to be late. It's going to be fine. And you're not going to believe this, but you actually have to plug the WeGo in order so it would be good enough.
You need a WeGo for your WeGo.
It turns out it
We
actually
saw
needs
Victoria
power.
hopping off the bus down here. We're like, that's how she
I honestly, I almost said I can't do it. Well, and then I found the key to my truck, so here I am.
And
so
we still-
preparedness is important in everything.
Yeah.
I like the fact that we're prepared to beat the crap out of Iran if we have to. I like the fact that we are prepared to do any number of things because you have to be prepared, ready to go, or you're going to get stuck with no key and the WeGo doesn't work. So that's my story.
And you still managed to beat us here and be on time.
I
compared to
was.
us.
True story.
all
Yeah,
went
true
over
story. I feel like that adds to the her introduction as the talent this morning. Like she didn't have her people around, getting her prepped and out the door.
Right, that's right. I have no
Yeah.
people. I am the people.
You are the
We're
people.
all our own people.
We're our
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
We are our people.
I was looking on your website. You have something called the Kamala Report.
Oh, the Kamala Harris report.
Please tell me what that is.
Thank you very much for looking at my website. It's been somewhat fallow recently ever since
Yeah.
I started working for PJ Media, and I spent all my time writing for them, and I forget to actually put stuff on my own website. But, I just watched Kamala Harris running for president for a while, and she was the one who probably gave me the most pause. The rest of the people seemed, if they were going to be super far socialist, as she is, what they were going to do was they're going to sound nuts, like Bernie. We need to have everybody hit free stuff.
Yeah.
It's
Love
going to somehow
impersonations
going to
on the
be.
show, by the way. More Sanders.
It's really bad.
no,
really
more
bad.
Sanders.
But what she does is she brings sort of a veneer of authenticity as well as competence. And so I thought, I'm going to watch this chick. I'm going to watch her. Sure, I live in the state in which she was attorney general and also, quote unquote, represents me. And I have a question. Why is it that Democratic senators never actually represent the Republicans in their constituency? They just go and then they vote the straight party line.
Yeah.
Republicans never do that. They listen to people. It's a remarkable thing.
And to be fair, to your point, they'll all say there are 39 million people in California. But you're right.
Do they ever hew the Republican line on anything? Oh, I'm a moderate, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Their moderation only comes when they say, well, we're only going to give you half of your college tuition for free, not all of it. That's moderation to them. Sorry, I'm just very conservative.
We
I'm
talk
very
about
conservative.
politics on this show often, and you're in a position, have been in a position to really be a student of what's going on the political stage on both sides, because OAN is very centered. They're a little bit on the right as we were looking into
Truly.
Pete's
Yeah.
matrix of all things.
Fontes Media, Vanessa Otero getting a shout out. You guys want to understand media, go to Fontes Media.
Yes, that was a cool snapshot of where everybody sits on the spectrum. But with One American News, so you're immersed in that, and you have to really be smart about it. Was there a point in your life where you said, I really want to drill down on politics. I really want to talk about this? Because
My whole life.
Yeah, everything you do,
My whole
especially
life.
on Twitter, especially like
Oh,
that's, and that's the perfect platform because it is very politically affiliated on Twitter. That's the platform. If there was a medium for that, at what stage of the game did you say, I love this, or I love talking about this?
When I was a kid, I wanted to be an anchor woman. I did everything in my power to get that position. I always knew what I wanted to do. Now, it didn't end up being a TV anchor woman, but now in my later life, look at me, I'm filling in for Graham. I mean, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
But that was never my goal. My goal of being on television was railroaded a bit when I became a reporter on radio and fell in love with that medium. And of course, I'd always been in love with that medium, but I didn't realize just how much in love I was. It's so intimate. It is, somebody is talking in your ear. That is very powerful, and it's very intimate. And the person who made that an art form was Rush Limbaugh. But my mom and dad used to listen to Ira Blue out of KGO in San Francisco, late night. I mean, you have the Art Bell, type shows, the flying saucer shows. And as ridiculous as those shows are, you listen to them and they're telling you a story, because storytelling is really what it's all about. And so I thought, I want to tell those stories. I want to be that guy. Yeah. And I've taken a lot of different weird turns, but wherever I plan, God has another plan.
Yeah.
And so here I am right now.
So what was your path? Because we have so many different people listening to the show, from young to old. I think it's always important to say, for the young listeners out there, how did you do that? And we're talking, 30 years ago.
Sure,
and the perception of females in the media at the time. What was your education getting into that? I mean, all I can see is little Vicky Taft with a cardboard box and a paper towel roll reporting the news.
I used to pretend I was the guy on Meet the Press in my mom and dad's den, and they had a little TV in there, and I would pretend I was like the guy on Meet the Press interviewing political figures and that sort of thing. So I mean, at a very early age, and then I would do that, and I'd read, and I paid attention. I can remember listening and watching the Watergate hearings when I was a kid. I mean, that stuff. Now I volunteer at the Nixon Library. Yeah. I mean, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
I mean,
which is where we met.
We did not meet there. We met when I saw you on Twitter, and you were going to be selling your book, and I said, it was close enough. It was in Oceanside, and I said,
that's right.
I'm gonna. You know what, Keith? Let's go see Scott. Let's go see this guy.
Gosh.
Let's support him, because I'm all about supporting authors and being in the audiobook world, and I get it. It's a tough gig, right? You've got to get out there and market and stuff like that. And so we went, and that's where we met.
That's right. Absolutely.
And then I saw you again at the Nixon Library when you were speaking, and our paths have crossed ever since. I believe in supporting people.
And then you had me on the show. You had me on the show when
I've had you on
Kim
One
Jong-un
American
was
News.
going crazy, and they were doing the
thought about you in Iran,
right.
the Iran thing. But I had a subject matter expert on Iran when I was filling in for Graham, and I said I thought about you right away. I go, oh man, Huesing did great on this, because he can tell me really what it was all about on the ground, where his guys are getting hurt by bombs made by the Iranians, by these blockheads.
I love that you go for that, because I'm also a guy from the ground, and I've seen the EFPs hung from the trees, and I collect intel. And when someone's going to tell me that General Soleimani is not a terrorist, they have no idea what they're talking about. So I'm compelled to go, look, here's how this works. And lethal targeting packages aren't just invented. You don't just pull the name out of the hat and be like, Soleimani. No. No.
It's your lucky day. Yeah. Well, of course, Obama had his disposition matrix. That was his kill list. Yeah. And I wonder, it would be really helpful information to know if Soleimani was on that list. I bet he was.
No, look, he absolutely was presented, because there's a finite number of people and targets that you would present.
Sure.
And then some make it up and some don't make it up. But absolutely, he's in a list of people. Do we kill this person?
Exactly. And so then you have him and this other guy who's in charge of the Hezbollah group, which is an Iraq-based group, not to be confused with the Iran-based group in Lebanon. But there's, all about that. Anyway, so you've got these dudes in the car. You've got Soleimani and the Khattab guy and the Hezbollah dude, and they're sitting there, and it's like having bin Laden in your crosshairs. Yeah. What are you going to do? Say, well, he might hurt somebody. No, you take him out. That's what you do. And he was a bad, bad dude. So Mike Lee, Senator Mike Lee, whom I love, very big, hard constitutional dude. I really enjoy him. Whenever you want true north on what is constitutionally correct in the United States of America, he's that guy. He was upset because the president's people didn't give a good enough backgrounder on just sort of after action for the U.S. senators, as well as the Gang of Eight and all the key people. And so he thought it was lacking. And then he also said, well, I want to know if our AUMF actually covers this particular hit. And of course, I don't even know what he's talking about because, of course, it covers that hit.
Yeah.
You cannot talk to me and tell me that this guy was not an enemy combatant. In fact, he wasn't just an enemy combatant. This is a guy who led enemy combatants in Iraq. It was all about Iraq.
Funded,
by
planned,
us.
provisioned. Yes. So, yeah, absolutely.
Well, Lee was fired up today. He was on all mainstream media. They're reporting as they walked out of the briefing. And
because he said it was terrible.
Yeah, and he's a Republican, too. And I was kind of refreshed to see that.
Me too.
Because this guy's holding people accountable. He's leading and using his position to say, look, we should be entitled to all of the facts, not what you think we should hear.
And don't tell us what we can and cannot say. That was really something that was particularly galling to him because he said that's basically prior restraint, that's the way we look at it in the journalism biz, and that's just wrong. And I get it, I totally get it. But he's totally wrong about whether or not the AUMF covers this Soleimani guy. Of course it does.
Yeah,
he was a bad actor.
It's also squarely underneath the Bush doctrine.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
exactly.
Obama used the Bush doctrine. Obviously, George Bush used it.
Yeah.
And so here's Donald Trump using it. We proactively go after terrorists. We've all said this. And
yes.
People that don't want to get killed shouldn't be doing terrorist shit. You know, that's
right.
That's sort of the blanket authorization. And I don't want to get us tied up.
Don't want to get treated like a terrorist. Don't act like one.
It's interesting to talk about leading into this politics and being a student of politics and everything that's going on the political and world stage, which we're immersed in right now with everything going on in North Korea and Iran being at the front of the stage right now. These are really the important things to be talking about. And now we sit in a position where we are under the blanket of protection of these young men and women who serve our country, where we used to be the guys at the tip of the spear ready to fight. And there's days now when I see all this unfold, I have to decipher really what's going to happen. Is it just saber rattling? Is it a little bit of politics and diplomacy? Or is this really going to happen? And sleep well at night knowing I'm not going to be able to pick up my rifle, hop on an airplane, and go 6,000 miles away and fight. But when I see all these things happening, my position has been and maintains, regardless of what the Trump doctrine is that we shouldn't be worried so much about pulling all of our troops out of the Middle East. Is we should have done it right and had the strategy going forward like we did in the European theater and the Pacific theater in World War II.
Yep.
We should have built bases in Al-Assad, make them big, and establish a presence.
I couldn't agree more.
Not as an occupying force, but as a stabilization
No, we're not an
element.
occupying force in Germany either, but yet we have presence there. We have presence in Japan.
Absolutely.
It just makes sense in Korea. It makes sense to have this as one of the stations that we rotate people through.
One of the things that's kept Iran in check is the fact that there's a whole lot of U.S. flags around it. You know, and so when they do overstep, and in this case, they got a terrorist killed, understand that there's another perspective too. And in their today's show, we have on a counterterror expert, Fred Burton, who's an author, and he's wonderful. And as intel guys, we all talked about targeting, the need to kill terrorists, and what they do to plan, all these things. Tomorrow's episode is more statecraft.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
that's a very different thing.
Yeah, and those guys who we go by going 100 miles an hour in one direction, absolutely correct and right, and then they're going to go across the other direction and not agree. That's what's going to happen tomorrow, right?
Yeah, so I think about the so-called statecraft back in the day when the coal was hit, and the woman who was the ambassador said, no, you can't have the FBI come in and further investigate this. That was wrong. It was dead wrong. That's where you have statecraft clashing with badassery from the Secretary of Defense office.
When there's also the spectrum, like the vertical spectrum of, like, this is the strategic and theoretic and political goal.
Yep.
But when Scott and his Marines go out to execute it, it has to be connected. It can't be disjointed. And that's been a problem of ours, is that, like, the State Department is not, their goal is not in line with what we're trained to do on the ground. Scott's guys are trained to go win, go kill people. And then you're trying to build a state when the state is not buildable at that point.
Exactly. We've all learned that. Don't go in and nation build. Doesn't work. You know what's interesting? I was at the Reagan National Defense Forum a couple of weeks ago, and I've gone, I think, almost since its inception 5 years ago, every year, and I always learn a hell of a lot of information there. One of the things that I learned was the current Commandant of the Marine Corps gave a little deal for reporters.
Dave Berger.
Yeah. And he talked about, thank you for reminding me of his name, and he talked about the fact that the Marines he said they're going on a diet. And he doesn't mean in terms of numbers. He means in terms of losing a lot of the big equipment that the Marines have been using heretofore, and then going forward, they will be smaller cell-like groups, if you will. I mean, I'm thinking maybe platoon level, Navy SEAL kind of
He wants
size.
the Marine Corps to be more special operations capable at at an organic state internally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
That's smart. I'm going to steal some of Scott's Marine thunder here. I'm an Army guy, but look, the conventional tank on state on state, that's just not a fight that we're likely to fight anytime soon. We need highly adaptable, super tolerant of ambiguous situations fighting forces, so that you can take a platoon or a battalion of Marines and go, there's no training for this, execute the mission, go, And it's an unfair position to put them in if they're out at NTC, shooting tank-on-tank fights, because we're not going to have that fight anytime soon. That's what I think. Let Scott
I think you're right.
It's a great concept. It's easily supportable and sustainable. I think the connecting piece from what that concept is, and I still stay very connected to that with what they're writing about it, is the technology. Is providing those smaller units, whether it's a 30-man team or a 100-man company, is they have to have connectivity, and they have to be able to be mutually supporting and also be able to share that information. So there's got to be a program of record where they share all that information in a battle space, whether it's 10 kilometers or 100 kilometers. How do we enable those units to be successful so they are mutually supporting?
Yeah.
But the big equipment, the big programs that we're spending a lot of the budget on.
Long lines of logistics.
Absolutely.
He's losing it.
Absolutely.
He's going to lose that stuff.
He's a really smart guy. I was absolutely thrilled when I saw Dave Berger's name come up for that. He's absolutely the right guy for the right job for the right reason.
And that brings me back to General Mattis. And what's interesting is Trump loses Mattis over the Syrian question and pulling our troops out of Syria right away as some sort of penance, if you will, to Turkey, which was that he made that video and he put it on his Twitter feed. It absolutely made no sense. I was going, what the hell is going on here with Trump? That he would just pull our guys out of Syria. It didn't make any sense to me. And there was some, I'm sure, backstage stuff going on, but he lost to Mattis over it. Yeah. And now, of course, he never pulled out of Syria, or he didn't pull everybody out. He's doing everything Mattis would have done. And I just think, you lost one of the best thinkers, a thinker's thinker, public intellectual, and you lost him because you made some promise to Erdogan, and he's not somebody that I think we ought to trust.
Yeah.
So you're trusting him over Mattis, and I just thought that was a bad plan. Now, of course, I kept wanting to go back to Mattis and go, so what do you think he's doing? What do you think about him taking out Soleimani? What do you think about all this stuff? Yeah. And every time something happens, every time Trump makes a move, I always think of Mattis. What would he have done?
He's a great guy because, and especially with everything that's been going on, the current SecDef has been relevantly absent from any speech. The only time
he's not a showboater.
No,
he's not a showboat
I heard he briefed Lee and Ted Cruz and all those guys today.
Oh, good.
Along with Pompeo, which was great. But it's interesting that you bring up Jim Mattis, and I've never said I'm a big Mattis-ite, but I love Jim Mattis. He's a magnificent bastard. I have a lot of affection for him, and he's brilliant.
He's brilliant.
And he understands one thing that many have a hard time comprehending and really processing is the cultural differences of the regions and the American culture. So as somebody that reports on everything that's going on the world stage, how do you explain that to the armchair quarterbacks that listen to your program or ours to say, the American culture is one thing, but we need people that understand other cultures. And 90-something percent of Americans have never even left the country. They've never traveled outside the country. And that's a big number. But how do you tell that to armchair quarterbacks when they make comments to you on social media or in the media about what we should be doing in the Middle East when they have relatively zero concept of what's going on?
Well, I'm not the one to ask. I'm a person who's still learning, and I was all in support of the Iraq War initially, thinking, because I knew. I talked to Tom Jocelyn of the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies, and I talked to a lot of people who reported on these things, who'd been on the ground and that sort of thing. And they said, of course the 9/11 hijackers went through Iran. Of course they went there. Of course Saddam Hussein was becoming more and more radicalized. He had a gold Quran, for crying out loud. He had one made for him. Yes, he was turning more, and his sons were going radical. Okay, so I know that. I know he's a bad dude. I know he had, at one point, WMD, possibly could have been moved. We found some. But I still have a bad taste left in my mouth by bad intel, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm much more circumspect on certain things. For instance, we had the information about Soleimani coming out. We had the information on this imminent attack that was to have taken place had we not taken out Soleimani. I have no problem believing it, but I tell you what, I have a hell of a time believing the same dudes who told us that it was Russia, and there was collusion, and Trump was a Russian agent, and he peed on bed, or had hookers pee on beds in Russia, and it's all wrong. And it's all bad intel. And it came from the DNI, came from the CIA. The only straight shooter in that whole thing was the NSA, Admiral Rogers, the head of the NSA at the time. And all of the other guys were doing whatever the hell they were doing and coming up with really bad information. So now I'm supposed to believe this was an imminent attack? Now I'm supposed to believe that? I don't know if I believe that. I know that they're not.
I'm not a conspiracy theorist either, but I like it when good reporters, good storytellers are sharing stories that largely go untold. I don't know if you've seen the film The Report.
No.
It's with Adam Driver. I can't remember who plays Dianne Feinstein's character, but it's all about the interrogation techniques of NSA and CIA. And
really?
And
is it good?
It is a good movie. It's long. It's a little dry, but it's all about the Driver's character plays an aide in Feinstein's office who starts doing this investigation. What's interesting
about same one who was the spy for the Chinese government? That guy?
Not that guy.
Yeah, not that guy.
A different guy.
But they talk about the waterboarding techniques and how they use it effectively on prisoners and how that came out initially. He says, well, if you have to waterboard someone 148 times, how is it an effective technique? And that the information. So I'm sitting there watching this film, and the reason I'm bringing this up is as I'm watching the film, I'm thinking, what if I'm a liberal or conservative watching this film? Either side, this is information that should have been shared years ago or come out while they were doing this.
Well, I knew some of this stuff.
Yeah.
I knew some of this stuff. I mean, and that's one of the reasons why I supported ongoing being in Iraq. I did not support nation building. Absolutely did not. So let it just be said. But one of the reasons why we waterboarded KSM, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, was because he did give us good intel. And eventually we found out that it was Osama bin Laden's driver. We got who it was. We started following him. We followed him on satellites. We got him. And we found out where bin Laden was based on KSM's information and intel that we got from waterboarding that bastard. So don't tell me that didn't help.
I have zero sympathy for the individual. I mean, he's, again, another bad guy that got caught.
Yeah.
So I think the point I'm trying to make is you brought up not being sold a bill of goods that isn't true.
Right.
As a guy that's deployed and redeployed to the region so many times, our reason for going in, I think, was under some false pretense.
Uh-huh.
And then the strategy of staying there and having an attainable goal that affected our national security is important. And that was brought up today, too, in the news. And I was talking to Pete about this with Tulsi Gabbard. And she's a veteran.
Sure.
In Hawaii, running for president. And she's another one that strikes me as is pretty sharp.
Well, she's nobody's fool.
No.
Stands no chance of winning, but she's nobody's fool.
She made an important point about...
That's because she's nobody's fool. That's why she won't win.
She made an important point about the whole discussion about withdrawal of troops and bringing people home. But also the reason why we're there and how does our presence affect our national security here at home. And just to bring that question up is something germane to both sides of the aisle. What do you think about Tulsi Gabbard?
Oh, she's refreshing. I enjoy her immensely. She's a badass. She knows her own mind. All of those things I like about her. She's too far to the left for me on domestic policy, but I do appreciate the fact that she would not, as a commander-in-chief, put our troops on the line to accommodate a very poorly thought out goal. I mean, or no goal at all. Nothing that.
Let me ask you this question, and I don't want to put you on the spot on your vote, but can she handle the job of president?
Well, she's not going to have to worry about it because she's never.
But I mean, like, if she got elected, would you be like, you know what?
Was she polling like 3% in Iowa or something like that?
Yeah, right. I mean, someone's going to win, you know, and
someone's going to win,
and weird shit's going to happen between now and then. So it's not the last twist or turn.
Sure.
But let's just say by some happenstance that she does win. would you have confidence in her ability to take on that job? Regardless of political agreement or not, can she handle it?
Well, I mean, somebody's going to have to do it, right?
Yeah, right.
She's as good as any of those guys on the other
Yeah.
side. Who would be more qualified than her? Bernie Sanders? I mean, you kidding me? And he's the guy. He's the guy to watch. I mean,
If
obviously.
you could pick someone from the right and from the left, who would you pick to do that job? Anybody you want. They have to be alive.
Ted Cruz. I love Ted Cruz.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I was a Ted Cruz guy. I was not a Trump person at all.
Right.
And then the more I saw him do stuff, not talk shit,
Yeah.
I said, I like that guy.
Who would be your Democrat that you could have in there? You'd be like, all right.
Let's see. Who's in the running? Who would least offend me?
Maybe not a candidate then. Maybe somebody else. Or-
I'd really have to think about that.
How about a
I
dark
really-
horse? Somebody you could pick that's not even remotely possible.
Oh, I really honestly haven't thought about
right.
this.
I think
mean,
your lack of answer is the same as the majority of most Americans.
Sure.
That
Well, I've had time to think about it. And I
well-
have no idea.
I think it's like most people, when put on the spot, they'll say, "Oh, I don't like Trump," or "I don't like Clinton," and I've pinned them to the wall. And I'm always hard pressed to answer the question. I say, "Well, who would you pick if you could put someone in there today?"
Well, I wouldn't pick a
Who would it be?
Democrat, so I mean that would just not be. I'm sorry. I know
No,
you guys.
you would- you don't
you guys
pick-
ride the line in the
I
middle.
think it
but
has to be, the best person for the job. And I'm not saying I've never voted for a Democrat. I have. And I think I base that solely off of leadership. Who's demonstrating the most basic leadership principles and characteristics that are going to make them successful in their
Who's
job?
the Democrat? Well, I mean, what is the Democrat panoply of candidates? What do we have here? We've got.
You got Biden. You got
No, absolutely. He's
you
been
got
wrong.
You got Buttigieg.
And he's too old.
Well, he's losing his marbles.
and
is
you've got
what
the,
he's
you've
doing.
got the low hanging fruit like the Gabbards. You've got Sanders.
Senator.
you've
Senator.
got Warren.
What's her Senator? What's her
Warren.
name? No, absolutely
Klobuchar.
not. Yeah, Amy Klobuchar. Of all of those people, probably her.
Yeah.
I just was having trouble remembering her name
You know-
because she doesn't have big name ID. Because
This is the thing I think is interesting. As great as this country is and all the opportunity that everybody has, we have not figured out how to create a situation where we're like, I can't decide. It's so good either way. I mean, the Democratic, and oh my God, they can totally do it. And then, the Republican can't. You know what? It's like it's never a choice between two incredible options. This last one was a felon and a felon. You know, like, and I'm just being straight up. Like, I didn't vote for either of them. I wouldn't. I won't vote for President Trump. For whatever reason, I get marked as someone that likes him. I understand that he's the president. He was elected. He gets to do the job. He gets to decide yes, no on Soleimani. I accept that. I don't like the fact that he says all the stupid things he does. But if I was going to pick two people right now, I would take General Mattis as sort of my right-leaning guy. So I think he can handle the job. He can handle all of the things about the job, knowing that this decision is there is no good decision here. There's shitty ones. So this is the least shitty. People are going to die, but he can handle that.
Yeah.
I think Jeff Bezos on the left side.
oh hell no!
I'm just saying he could handle all of the intricacies of the job and go.
I'd go with
"This is the
Mattis
direction we're
before,
going."
and I think Mattis is more left than you think.
I'd be fine with that because I think they can. The uncertainty is not going to give him as many problems as it would President Trump. I mean, which president recently hasn't learned on the job?
Of course,
You know, so he already starts at a higher level of learning. You know, I think President Trump's speech yesterday was him being a lot better of a president than he was 3 years ago.
he was on prompter. Yeah,
What's that?
he was on teleprompter, which is fine.
Yeah.
He's better on prompter actually.
Yeah. Yes.
But I have the gut test for any person running for office. And my gut test is this: if I were to punch that person in the solar plexus, what would they say? Would they say "God bless America," or would they say "We're full of crap"? And Obama would say, "We're full of crap. I hate this country." And Trump, you hate him or love him, everything he does is for effect. He would belch up "God bless America" because I really think the guy loves this country, and he's not going to throw it under a bus.
yeah.
That's the thing. I mean, when it all comes down to the final moment, the penultimate moment before casting your ballot, you're thinking there, think about my gut test. Do you want somebody who doesn't like our country and wants to change it from stem to root? Or do you want somebody who really loves our country and is going to do everything to protect it? Maybe providing a few changes. I mean, that's the test.
It's interesting, too, when you use metric of American pride, let's just say social media. When the rockets hit Al-Assad Air Base, I saw all these American flags just popping up, just nothing more, just American flags, like bing, 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 and all the fees. And I thought to myself, and it's kind of, I don't know if morose is the right word, but how many bases need to get bombed? How many buildings need to get blown up to bring this nation together? But those are unifying events. When Americans are killed and attacked, that's when we unite. I don't know what the missing ingredient is in our culture that we can't be united with two political parties for the best needs of our country.
We used to be.
To continue to survive another 250 years. I don't know what that ingredient is.
There were literally tens of millions of people upset that Iran lost its #1 terrorist.
I know. It's
in
ridiculous.
America.
In America.
I know.
Yeah,
it's outrageous.
And arguing with someone like me who's been there, I've talked to the Iraqis that are like, fuck Iran. Get them out of our country. Get them out of our politics.
Oh, yeah. It's
and people are going to tell me that it's about,
Isn't it shocking?
Shocking.
To look at the whole landscape of all the media and find and realize that they're only giving you a far left version of the news for the most part.
Yeah.
It's stunning. It's like, hello, whatever happened to, you might be biased. Sorry, I keep hitting my microphone. You might be biased in your personal life, but cough up some facts, dude. Give me some information on both sides. At least give me a couple of different sides to the doggone story. And they're not even doing that. It's just a scream fest on MSNBC and CNN.
Yeah.
It's just chasing conspiracy
the good news is that, like, especially like with our show here, and we're not a political show, but
there you are today.
But I know that we can stand up straight and say, this is my experience from the ground. This is an expert. Scott has been in Ramadi. We can talk specifically about the things that we know about and remove President Trump from, because he is a problem. He makes people crazy, and people are crazy about him.
He does it on purpose.
Yeah, well, and even if he does nothing, if he just shows up and says, people lose their minds, right?
Yeah, you lose their minds. And that's them losing their minds and failing to see the man for what he is.
Right.
Sure, a flawed human being.
Let me ask you this.
He's not Satan.
Given all of the crazy he creates by his presence and by his actions, balanced against the good, is he worth it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. He's all we've got right now. And the Republicans. No, seriously. I mean, in terms of, what are you laughing at me for?
I had a question for you.
Oh, okay, go.
It wasn't so much a question as 2 words, Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah, exactly. He's the counterweight to Nancy Pelosi. He makes them nuts enough he'll make them nuts. He is making them nuts. There was some Obama derangement syndrome going on.
For sure.
Certainly not to the extent that we've seen the TDS going on. It's making people nuts because people are becoming more far left. They assume that he is a far right individual. He's not. Trump is not far right.
Yeah.
He's just doing things that agree with, in the whole menu of things he's done. I agree with most of them, and I'm pretty far right.
I totally agree with what you're saying. I think if Congress would work with them, and let's all understand, Congress's approval rating is lower than the president's significantly, but he would absolutely, and he's run on this, support infrastructure, which is a left-leaning position.
Huge.
He would fix his version of the immigration system, but they all can't work together, and he's not a consensus builder. And so when you look at him versus Obama was reflective, and then the president is action-based. See, he doesn't care if he makes mistakes. He's like, I'm going to do what I think is right in this moment now.
And what haven't the media told you? The media haven't bothered to reiterate the fact that he was ready to do business with the Democrats on the issue of the kids who'd been brought by their parents.
Absolutely.
I mean, he offered them 2 deals. Do you hear that anymore about what's the group of kids called? I can't remember. Whatever. DACA. Nothing.
Yeah.
You never hear anything like it. He did justice reform, quote unquote justice reform, getting people out of prison. He'd been there for a while.
Yeah.
Some people don't deserve to be out of prison, by the way, but some people do. Good for him. I mean, he's willing to listen to Kim and Kanye. Okay, great, fine.
Yeah.
Whoever, it doesn't matter. He doesn't care who's bringing the message, and he's willing to work with Nancy Pelosi. Is she evil incarnate? No, but she's just ridiculously left. She has to hew to the leftists in her party. And when you are looking in your back to see who's coming to get you, as Nancy Pelosi undoubtedly is, she says, well, okay, well, I'll just I'll go farther.
Another one of our great Californian elected officials that do nothing to represent the other half of their constituents.
I'm from Portland originally. I grew up in Portland, Oregon. Portland, Oregon has become so left because all these people from New York decided they'd come out and use it as their little proving ground and run for office.
Yeah.
And when they did, they started trying to put New York sensibilities into this parochial town that I grew up in. And so the same thing is gone again. I mean, it's happened again where each sector of town, they've put in a machine for machine politics. They call it a neighborhood association. They've taken over every single institution in that town. And not one person who's if I called Earl Blumenauer, I call him Bowtie Blumenauer. He's a 3rd District CD guy, and he's in D.C. If I called him for any help, you think I'd get any help? No, I wouldn't get any help. I called Ron Wyden's office once. He's a senator, and one of the senators, and he gave me some help, and I thought, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. But if 5 out of 6 politicos, I wouldn't get the time of day. Not get the time of day.
Nancy Pelosi is another one, like Trump, polar opposites, but are so adept at playing the game.
Well, she's
being
good at
master of
playing
it. And mid-December, I'm in Belgium in Bastogne, and Nancy Pelosi is literally closer than you and I are together.
Seriously?
Mm-hmm. At the embassy luncheon for about 20 surviving World War II veterans as we're commemorating the 75th anniversary of the Battle of the Bulge. And, man, you want to talk about knowing the political game when you're up against that crowd. And you don't think some of those 95, I mean, here you are in a room full of about 20 or so centurions. Mm-hmm. You don't think those guys had some things to say directly to Nancy Pelosi?
Oh, I hope they did, too.
They did. They were totally unabashed about it, too, because, I mean, they've survived the Battle of Bastogne, but also they're 95.
They know stuff. They know stuff.
They laid it out on the line. And as much as, again, you want to buy into the vitriol of mainstream media and not be a fan in her fan club or whatever, but the fact she took time to show up and shake hands, and she focused all of her time on the veterans. She didn't go grip and grin with the mayor and all this. She didn't sit at the head table. She just came in. I thought it was, again, that's a political gesture. It was like, hey, I got all these guys in town, and I'm in town. I'm showing up here. I thought it was smart, but at the same time, I wasn't in the thing. Yeah, I can't agree with all of that and do a photo op with Nancy for my brand, because I don't know if that's hypocritical of me or
I have a lot of respect
because I don't have a good sense of all the good that they're doing. What are they producing?
Well, they're not producing anything, and they're giving away the spoils of our production.
Or are they? And it's not being reported unless you're going to be some research nerd that's like, what does the Democrat Party produce over the last 4 years?
Free stuff.
Yeah, I have respect for Nancy Pelosi. I think she does exactly what she. I mean, you don't get to be speaker twice,
right?
With that long of a gap, without being excellent at what she does.
Yeah. Sure.
And even though she holds the power, she is. We have this great balancing effect on our government where, I'm positive she didn't want to go down the impeachment road. So she satisfied, her people in her party to give it to him. But now she's like, I'll eat this. I can have this political win. And it's like her and Chuck Schumer.
It's her millstone.
All these folks are great at the game, and we have to at least respect their ability to hold that power and continue to do whatever it is. I mean, look,
they really made a mistake on that.
Yeah,
they made a huge mistake on that, and they have now sullied impeachment forever. It is now going to be a political game. It is a political game.
And
we actually have to do something wrong.
Whoever the next president is, they're already being plans.
Oh yeah.
For impeachment, for whoever it is, doesn't matter if it's right or left.
Yeah, just for grins and giggles. So, and there you go.
Right.
And there you go, and that will start, and it will foment other stuff.
Yeah,
as it has in the past.
Because let's be honest, if Mitch McConnell was delivered articles of impeachment for President Obama, it'd be a totally different situation.
Maybe, I don't know. He's a straight shooter. I'd say he's a pretty straight shooter.
I think he's also a powerful political player, and if you hugged him, he might put a knife in you if he thought it would benefit his people.
That's correct. Cocaine Mitch might come get you.
And again, I respect the fact that he's able to wield that power and for so long and so effectively,
Well, and then, Harry Reid gave us the filibuster, blew up the filibuster for judicial appointments. And so Mitch McConnell just said, oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Watch me. And he did it for Supreme Court appointments. Why? Because we needed to. I mean, I've seen the Democrats operate. I saw what they did to Kavanaugh. I saw the dog and pony show. Yes. There is a reason I am a person of the right. I left the left. over Clarence Thomas in 1991 and what they did to him. And I thought to myself, here's Ted Kennedy, Howard Metzenbaum.
Come on, right?
Joe Biden.
Yeah.
All these guys going after the black guy because he wasn't the right black guy.
Yeah.
It's the reason why Miguel Estrada never made it to the U.S. Supreme Court, because they didn't want, that was Bush's choice, they didn't want a latter-day Hispanic to be a Republican Hispanic, an appointment. They wanted to save it for what's her name, who, by the way, I listened to all their oral arguments, the wise Latina. She's horrible. She said, I like Ruth Bader Ginsburg much more than I like Sotomayor. So anyway, I'm sorry that, but when they did that to that black man, that's what I saw. I didn't know anything about Clarence Thomas, nothing. Now I'm so grateful he's on the court. He is one of the sharpest guys there. He doesn't talk a lot. He doesn't talk much at all.
Yeah.
But when he does, you better listen.
Well, who does all the writing when there's a dissent? It's him. He writes the dissent a lot.
Yeah.
The Supreme Court is a weird thing. Let me ask your opinion on this. The country's only gotten bigger, and the court has not grown in size since the middle 1800s. Right? Mm-hmm. So you have this court that can't hear all the cases. And I'm not saying expand the court to load it. I'm fine to find some kind of bipartisan way to load the court. But don't we need a greater capacity to hear some of these cases that, this is how we check the legislature. The legislature's grown.
Hey, this is Pete A. Turner from Lions Rock Productions. We create podcasts around here. And if you, your brand, or your company want to figure out how to do a podcast, just talk to me. I'll give you the advice on the right gear, the best plan, and show you how to take a podcast that makes sense for you, that's sustainable, that's scalable, and fun. Hit me up at pete@breakitdownshow.com. Let me help. I want to hear about it.
Don't we need a greater capacity to hear some of these cases that, this is how we check the legislature. The legislature's grown, but not the Supreme Court.
Well, I've got some thoughts on that, because I have given this some thought, and my take is that you don't need to grow the size of the court. What you need are more, if you will, people who are textualists as well as originalists, so that you don't have a lot of these stupid cases bubble up into the federal appeals court process. Yeah. And you don't have that one guy in Hawaii say, oh, by the way, and I don't like Trump, and so anything he does, I'm going to issue a stay on. You can't have these rogue judges. And that's separate and distinct from what I'm originally saying to you. If you have people know what the guardrails are of what the Supreme Court is willing to hear, then they will act as their own governors, if you will, on top of what they do. They will cease to make ridiculous decisions. And so I think it's a self-correcting thing. It will take several years. You can see how John Roberts has planned it all. He has purposely selected certain cases that are narrowly adjudicated, and so that he can get a particular decision. A lot of those cases, most cases, are not 5-4 decisions. They're 7-2s, 9-1s.
Right.
And he's doing that on purpose because he wants to be able to set the template for later cases to come up, and also to, send a shot across the bow to the guys below them saying, look, this is what we're doing. And there's a couple of things where the Supreme Court has said, we're not going to take that case because it ain't our job. There are a couple of cases the last session about gerrymandering that they purposely just put their hands up and said, this is you. This is a political decision. We have no business being in this. And when you start doing that, that makes a difference over time.
I like that they brought that one case up about homosexuality and rights. It's a recent one. I can't remember the specific docket number, but they were considering if an old law that was written before we had, gay marriage and all these things was applicable to the current situation. Because it's a good question for the court. Like, is this law from the 60s when being gay was illegal? Is that fair as a test for anybody, or should this go back over to the legislature to have them write law?
What did they do? I don't even know.
I don't recall the final outcome.
Okay, they did the Obergefell. That was the gay marriage one, right? Wasn't that Obergefell? Wasn't that the one? Okay, well, whatever it was, Kennedy wrote the opinion.
Yeah, but this is post. This is within the last 6 months.
Okay.
My point is that folks on the left instantly reject the court's ability to have a good, their job is not to say whether it's okay to be gay and be married or anything or have rights. It's to say, does this law apply?
Correct.
In this case.
That's
this
their job.
Old 50, 60-year-old law.
Balls and strikes, man. That's all they do.
Yeah, and so if the court says no, it's not that It's just the court is not the venue for that. So this law doesn't apply because we should update this law.
Right. Right.
That's what they're saying, but
exactly.
But folks can't understand that that's what they're doing.
Well, and that's because we've used the courts politically to make, and indeed they did that with gay marriage.
Yeah.
Then when they just blew out Measure 8 or whatever it was,
right.
And they did it with brickbats and bombs and beatings and all sorts of things until they got to snuff it out in the state of California in order to get a superhighway to the Supreme Court. Was that the right way? Probably not, because guess who adjudicates marriages?
Yeah.
States do. I don't even know what the hell Anthony Kennedy was doing involved in it, frankly. But nevertheless, that's where we are in the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it's a state thing. It's like abortion. It's a state law. Why are we making our Constitution into something it's not?
Yeah.
The Constitution doesn't speak about marriage.
Right.
The state laws do. The state legislators do.
And we have a Bill of Rights. And we had this argument back then. If it's not written, it's not covered.
Right.
And then they're like, no, these things have to be. So we started amending it. And you're right.
Well, the 10th Amendment says if we didn't do anything about it, it's on you guys.
Yeah. Right.
So what the hell's going on with the 10th Amendment?
I'm all for gay marriage, but let's vote on it and let's say we decide.
Let's face it, gay marriage is going to pass.
Yeah.
It's going to pass.
Just
so
like
what are you afraid of? Abortion. Abortion was legal in California before in 73 court decision.
Yes.
Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. So they don't want abortion in Missouri. Fine. Go to Illinois or Kentucky or wherever it is. I mean, I know that doesn't sound very nice, but you know what? Life ain't fair. Life is not fair. And, that's one of the reasons why people want to adjudicate everything, want to bring it, because they want the courts to dictate. And people have gotten to the idea that courts and justices and judges are at the top of the pyramid. They're not.
This is a great point.
You know who the top of the pyramid is?
Us.
In this country? The individual is.
Yeah.
And you know what? People don't remember that. They do not remember that the center cornerstone of our country and all of its founding documents rely upon the individual being the person who is in the center of the government.
Yeah. Do you think we're really a bimodal country where we have this left hump and a right hump, or do you think we're a bell curve?
Well, I don't think I understand the question.
If you look left and right, or are we we have this bimodal hump, or are we a bell curve kind of country where most?
I think we're a bell curve.
Yeah.
I don't think we're so partisan that we can't tolerate each other. I think there's the Antifa left, those guys.
Yeah, I mean, a bell curve has left stuff.
Sure.
And weird shit happens out at the end.
Yeah, and for some reason they take up most of the oxygen. The AOCs and the Ilhan Omars and those guys are, they crowd the stage. But it's really the Amy Klobuchars who's going like, "What are you guys doing? I mean, you guys are making us look bad." Or even they're even making Bernie Sanders look bad, and he's really way out there.
It's funny. The most powerful organization for President Trump's reelection is literally the left. And the news media. When he says fake news, quit giving it to him. Go do your fucking job, journalist.
Yeah, what up?
Cite your sources.
Exactly.
Remember that early on, that whole piece about the CDC and the banned words? They went crazy, reported all this thing about this memo about how you couldn't say, science, and you couldn't say the word abortion. You could all these other words, but there was no fucking memo. If you're a journalist, you're going to run that story, you have to have the goddamn memo.
Yep.
You don't go on some conjecture or some rumor, And so even if it was true, now it's not. Now it's fake news because you don't have a source.
Oh, yeah.
I think we've gotten to this cycle, too, is it's so easily retractable now. With the proliferation of social media. I've read an op-ed or something I've written for Fox or whatever, and I catch a typo and I go, "Oh, editor, can you change that?" "Oh yeah, good catch." But they're not even editing it before they're dropping some stuff. Mm-hmm. So if you make a statement or you don't cite a source, you can just go back in and just redrop it.
There are certain programs that allow you to see all the edits that have occurred to a news story. So that's always very telling, I think.
Yeah. We could talk politics for hours with Victoria, but I want to talk more about Victoria.
Oh, okay.
And so from your career in broadcasting, one of the things you recently reached out to me and you said you were doing some work with Audible. Is it Audible?
Yes. Sure. Audible, Amazon, iTunes.
So talk about the book a little bit and then talk about how you got introduced to that. Did you want to do that or did they say, hey, we want you to be a contractor? we want you to read
you know
books.
what? It's so easy to do audiobooks now. So, there wasn't a heck of a lot of talent that it takes, but that's a lie because it really does take a lot.
But you're a natural storyteller, so I think it's a really good fit.
Depends on who's writing the books. And let me tell you something. I've had
Talk about that.
One author, he's a friend of mine from being on my program over years ago, and he's a spy thriller author. And his name's John D. Trudell. And he's written this series of books which always seem to somehow come true. It's like a Brad Thor kind of a thing. He's in the genre of Brad Thor and Ben Coase and Vince Flynn and those guys. And so I love those. Those are my guys. So I'm all over those guys. And so when I had the opportunity to be able to produce these as audiobooks, the John D. Trudell Ravens series, Ravens Run, Ravens Redemption, Ravens Resurrection, he's working on the 4th one right now, and I hope to be able to do that one too. I said, well, sure, I'd love to do that, not knowing what I was getting myself into. And what I had to do was I had to stand up a company, I had to get additional equipment, I had to redo the first book probably twice, 3 times, because it just sucked, because I was terrible. And you think you're good.
How hard it is to do that?
You've heard me, you've heard my bio. I've done practically everything, right? This is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
It's super hard.
Hardest thing I've ever done.
Because I've recorded these things, and any emotion that's not in line with what you're reading is completely apparent when you listen to it. It's not when you're talking it, but I'll come back and I'll listen. I'll be like, what were you thinking about there? Like, oh my God, yeah, my head wasn't in the book. I was thinking, and you can hear it. It's so hard to match everything up and make it work.
Yeah, and now I know the characters.
Yeah.
And I really like his characters.
And you read different genders by character.
Different
you
voice.
do the voices.
Yeah, some of them, and I do all the voices.
Some people don't. Some people make that decision where
I like books that do. Some of my voices aren't the best in the West, and that's okay. But I try to make them as good as I can. Something that's tolerable for me to listen to is something that's I'm a person.
Good measure.
I'm a person who I'm very particular. If it's a terrible reader, I'm out. I mean, just like, bye.
Yeah.
But if I can do a creditable job with his books, I'm okay. And it depends on how he writes them. For instance, in the first book, there were entire chapters done in a first-person voice. And I really didn't like it. And but I did it in a first-person voice. Now he's got the second novel, Raven's Redemption, by John D. Trudell, available on Audible at any moment.
Nice.
He had more back and forth, more byplay between the individual characters, and it was built, if you will, in a way that was much better for a storyteller, for the narrator. And so now we're going to Raven's Resurrection. And he's got more first-person.
I think that's.
I'm not doing it in a voice anymore. I'm not going to do first-person.
Could you read
voice.
someone's book that you didn't?
No.
Love the word.
No.
You have to
I don't
love
think
that
so.
genre.
Can you do that?
It's hard. No, I would say no. If I don't like it, no. I would say
if
I
you
would,
wrote
I would
a book,
turn it down.
would you read your own book?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I probably would make more mistakes reading my own book because I would just start not saying all the words that were there. I'd make up my own shit. I would throw in asides. I'd be too distracted to read my own book. Positive.
I think one of it's such an interesting process when you say it was the hardest thing I had to do
ever. Not
just setting up the studio, but actually reading it.
No, reading it.
And then the relationship with the author.
Oh.
What was that like? How many phone calls? How many Word documents?
Well, here's the thing. The
it.
way we set it up is a lot of times what you could do on Audible is that you could just be the talent. And then you send them your reads, and then they do whatever they're going to do with them. And then that's the end of the relationship. But what my author wanted to do was, basically put me on the hook for everything. And I don't blame him. I don't blame him. I'd want that kind of a sweetheart deal too. Here, you have the rights to these books. Go. That's what I did. So it's technically my product. It's my sales. It's my product. He gets a piece of it, of course.
It's your performance. Yeah.
It's me. And so there wasn't a lot of interplay between me and the author, although he did come back and say, this is a little, this and this is missing something. And I had critical listeners listening to some of this stuff who missed it. Like you were saying, your typos on the Fox News thing. It happens all the time. So
I think when you're telling a story, too, instead of nonfiction, like my book, or the best one was with Carl Marlantis, who wrote Matterhorn, and Bronson Pinchot did his. And you'd never think,
wow,
this guy who
does
is a
that
comedic
crazy
actor, he plays silly character. He reads this, but the best thing was Carl explaining to him is it's not the fucking rifle, it's the fucking rifle.
Exactly.
Is just the intonation and the pitch and how we do that, and that relationship with the author. I think that's
I have a relationship
to me.
I have a relationship with the book. So I'm a subject matter expert on spy thriller, Audible books. I am, because I listen to them all the time. I've been listening to books since 20 years. More than that, longer than that.
And they were on CD?
We used to call
Cassettes?
books on tape. Books on tape.
There was
I want to jump through this in. I went to a Flying J truck stop, and they had not only books on cassette, but they had porn on cassette, audio porn you could listen to.
Are you serious?
On one of these
truck stop are you going to?
like little spinny carousel
my
things. And I'm like, this
gosh.
is the best thing ever.
There's like
is
8
terrible.
tapes.
Yeah,
in the
Angela's
thing,
Forbidden Weekend. You know.
Oh, God.
Okay. Oh,
Anyhow,
my
sorry.
gosh.
Sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
It's just such a funny image to be in a
It is true.
Circle J. Anyhow.
It's trucking. Truck life's really pretty
Yeah.
interesting.
We had truckers on this show. That is an interesting segment of society.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
there is some crazy. What was it?
Yeah.
C.J. Boxer wrote that book about truckers, and it was crazy. And I've never read it, but I intend to.
There's a whole other vernacular.
Yeah. It's a different world.
It is.
It's got its own words. It's
which seems kind of boring to most people. You get in the rig, you drive A to B, drop off the load.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny because my son-in-law, my new son-in-law, I love this. I love both my sons-in-law. He's a broker for transportation. And so he gets his product from point A to point B using on any number of truckers. And I think that those audiobooks by the guy who does all the trucker novels, I think he needs to know that, because he says there's some crazy bastards out there. But I think it would be great because it's a different.
So I'm just shifting gears because I don't want to lose the topic. Is you've gone from
hold that thought. 'Cause I want to say this last thing about trucking. Here's how California is. I don't think it's true anymore, but it was on 80 and on 50 as you came down the hill from Tahoe. The signs were written in trucker. Gear down, let her drift. Engine will slow you. Kind of thing.
Really?
Yes. And I mean the big fucking green, how you drive and pay attention
Love
signs.
that.
Yeah. So it was
Love
written in
that.
trucker for a long time. Gear down.
Well,
Don't brake.
Now you want
Let her drift. It said let her drift.
I love it. That's
Not
hilarious.
let her. No,
her.
let her drift.
Oh.
It was like we're in Oklahoma.
That's awesome.
All right, sorry.
No,
Take
that's
your thought.
awesome.
Go
I
forward.
love
No, I just wanted
I love
to.
that.
We went from the background to the political dive to broadcasting to what you're doing now with Audible and doing voice work. And you stated earlier in this episode that you've done it all over 30, 40 years.
I kind of think I've done a lot.
What
yeah.
is it now? Just on the.
That's why I call my podcast "The Adult in the Room."
I like the adult in the room. So that's my question: is what's next? What have you
Podcast.
not done?
I gotta get
and
my
we reached
podcast up and
this
going.
phase of our life, and it's a new year, and you set new goals for yourself. What is it that you have to do?
This is my magnum opus is getting my dog. Well, I got a couple of books in me, but I'm running out of time. I'm not the youngest chick in the hen house, and so, but I'm going to get my podcast up because it's an election year. Got to do it. It's going to have to happen. And the funny thing is I've spent 30 years in radio and doing radio shows.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of crappy podcasts out there. I'm sure you guys know. Yeah. And mine is going to sound like a radio show. I'm sorry, but it is. And I hate the some of the banter. Oh, ha, 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 this is what I did. This has not been that. Your show's not been that. Maybe sometimes it does, but content is king, right?
Absolutely.
And everybody, that's a cliche for a reason because it's true. But if you give a person no information and no reason to listen, they're not going to listen, especially on a podcast. So give them good content, make it fun, make it funny. I love to be funny on the air because there's so much
I wanted more
comedy
Bernie
out there.
Sanders in this
Well,
episode.
maybe next time. I'll do you the Bernie Sanders. He's one of the easier ones. I've tried to do Nancy Pelosi, but I just look like I'm having an epileptic seizure
Chad
when I do
Prather's
it.
got Nancy down pat.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So the podcast does she sound like a blithering idiot sometimes? Oh my gosh.
I think when you're programmed, as you know, being on air a lot, you have talking points, and I think as a consumer of that, I think you get meddled to that, and you want more authenticity. Yeah.
Well, it's authentic.
Old too.
It's authentic. She's authentically nuts. Is what she is.
I don't say this as an ageist, but she's old. She's 76 of a day.
Yeah.
So the faculties wear down, and being in that position as Speaker of the House or President, people throw slings and arrows at the Bidens and Sanders and Trump. Like, oh, they're old. I'm like, well, it's not a fitness contest. It's a smarts contest.
I hate that. I really do.
It's a
the older I
smarts
get,
contest.
the less I like that.
I don't need my president to run a decathlon.
Well, Joe Biden, he'll challenge you to a push-up contest.
I also don't want
He's
my
done
president
that.
to have a crazy brain, though, that's breaking down. I mean, brains
You guys,
start to fail, you know?
Joe Biden, I mean, he is a walking mess. And everybody knows it. All the lefties know it.
Adult in the room. Who's the first guest you're going to have on the show? Who do you want on the show?
Oh, I don't know.
It starts with S, ends with Scott Huesing.
Will you come on? Will you come on?
Absolutely.
Oh, I love that.
I don't know if I qualify adult in the room, but
you're an adult now.
Yeah.
You have to.
I know.
You have to own it. Hey,
Yeah.
wait. Where's your gift I gave you? It's
Yeah.
over there next to that guy. Come here. Come here. Let me show you.
Over
Come
21.
here. It's an over 21.
I got a good bottle of wine from Victoria because she stood me up on my birthday party
Yeah,
at my
suck.
ranch. But
I'm so
no.
sorry. I want to go to your ranch.
Yeah, come on. Your gate's always open.
McLean Cellars. It's out of Laguna Beach, but they grow their wine grapes in Paso Robles and Santa Ynez too. And it's called Timeless because even though it was your birthday, it's timeless, right?
Well, the gate's always open for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have dogs?
2 Great Dane puppies.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, and 3 horses.
Really?
Yeah.
Do they play with the horses? Do the dogs play with the horses?
Yeah, they're pretty good.
That's pretty cute. Yeah, I got it.
But adult in the room
Mastiff.
podcast. Who's the first guest?
That'll be Scott Huesing.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm down. Roger Clinton promised the same thing, but we're still
It's
trying
hard
to
get a podcast off the ground.
Yeah,
you know?
we're still trying to get Roger to get his podcast.
Why would you talk to Roger Clinton?
He's a
What's
great
up with
guy.
He's great.
Is he?
We
He's
did
a
it
wonderful
in this,
guy.
Oh, that's
where do we
funny.
do it? Huntington Beach, just like this.
Yeah.
Is he here? Is he
5 minutes
Been
in,
on twice.
he's crying. He's recovering alcoholic. He's got a heart bigger than Texas.
Yeah.
What's he doing now?
I mean, he does the
kicking it.
things that he wants to do.
His band,
yeah,
he's doing
a little band, a little
Yeah.
acting. Just does a lot of little
Yeah.
things. I mean, and I don't want to say this unfairly. His brother helps him out.
Oh, that's
you know,
good.
because his
He
brother's
should,
his
yeah.
older brother, right?
Yeah,
He's always
yeah, of
helped him out.
course.
But he has his own things that he does, and he's wonderful. And what he is he's the best of all of
Yeah.
us.
Oh,
Like,
isn't
I
that
love
wonderful?
football. I love guns. I love people. I want us to get along. You didn't hear anything bad in that list.
Oh,
you
isn't
know?
that
No.
nice?
Yeah.
We
That's
think
nice.
that's like over 600 plus episodes of this show. It's important to bring everybody into the show.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's all about sharing great stories. And
Yeah.
he's another guy. And what's this podcast can be called? Roger That. But
Yeah.
Oh,
anyway,
that's cute. That's cute.
who else do you have in your crosshairs?
Well, see, okay, so I have not big names. Here's why. Because in the beginning, or at least after I'll establish it, like I've been talking to Andy McCarthy for 20 years and Tom Jocelyn for 20 years, all about stuff about terrorism. I mean, with the legal aspect of terrorism as well as terrorism. So, I mean, I expect that I'm hoping Andy will come on. And I'm hoping that Tom will continue to come on. And so those kind of guys, I will do that. But one of the stories that I'm telling, I thought about spinning it off into a separate podcast, like Serial, because it's a storytelling thing. But it occurred to a friend of mine, and I've been working on collecting sound for 3 years now, collecting sound and getting information, doing FOIA requests, etc., on behalf of a friend of mine who was, I believe, found guilty of a so-called crime that he was not guilty of. And it was well before Antifa, really, people knew who Antifa was, and they attacked him.
Yeah.
And he pulled a gun. And he had a concealed, legal gun, concealed carry license, went to the range all the time, showed amazing restraint, trigger control, and didn't shoot it. No shots fired, no one hurt. He was sent to jail. He was found guilty and sent to jail with video showing them converging on him, not once, but twice.
Yeah.
So self-defense is no longer an issue in the city of Portland because they hate the right. And he's a libertarian. He's not
Yeah.
even super right or anything like that.
Yeah, that's why I'm a shitty libertarian. I always like to say I don't mind there being government control on certain things,
Sure.
but don't assign someone something. We have a similar project we're working on, same kind of case. John, the guy who started the show with me, and he's also a private eye, and that bad man comes in the house. He shoots the guy, doesn't kill the bad man in the house, and they say you shot him unjustly.
Oh, no way.
And this is a guy the bad guy had a record for going to people's homes and harming people, did that crime after he got shot, and they still put the shooter in jail. Can you believe that?
I do. I have no trouble believing it now after what happened to my friend.
And that's here in California. But if you can't protect your home against someone and you don't have the person's dossier, but they are in your house and not allowed,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, that's enough. That's probable cause to shoot them.
That's
you don't need
the
anything
Prison
more.
Chronicles too, which Pete
Oh
is
my
creating
God.
is in the podcast medium, which everyone knows. Listen to this show. I love. I've been on hundreds. I've done 75 with Pete. Is an encyclopedia of the new world because we don't have those books sitting in our homes where you get subject matter experts. That's why I like talking about you, and you're like geared to always talk about others.
That's
and that's
true.
like
I do. I'm more
and that's
comfortable.
kind of in our nature as storytellers too. Is I want to be talking about other people, not so much about myself. But Adult in the Room is going to be another series, and you don't have to have the glitzy glamour on the show. A lot of the people in the podcast world, like Joe Rogan's show, I don't know half those people. I've never heard of them, but he's got a great way to pull those interesting people. He's like, I'm done with. I don't want
coming on the big
I don't
show
want
tonight.
Cameron
Blah, blah, blah.
Diaz on my show, although
Right.
she'd be funny, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
But I need the really untold stories on my show, and I think that those are
relatable.
That's what's beautiful about this medium is you're creating something, and that content it's always out there, and you're one of those people who's going to do the research and
Yep.
prepare.
I will prepare. I will tell you what I believe the truth
to really
be,
have
and
people
I will
share
back
that
it up.
story. And you're a natural interviewer too, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah,
I mean,
I am too.
Yeah, it's a different world. And I have a life. I mean, I have a husband and a couple of kids, and I had a third child, and she died of chickenpox years ago before there was a vaccine.
Yeah.
So these are all things that inform my treatment of people.
Yeah.
I'm certainly more empathetic, and I deal a lot with the homeless in Southern California. There are a lot of homeless around here, as you know.
Yeah.
And I don't have scales over my eyes whatsoever about these people. I'll call a spade a spade. I will call somebody out for being a moocher and not being somebody who's, I'll give them help because I think that's what my religious belief tells me to do. I'll help you. I'm not going to be a sucker.
Yeah.
So I go and cook for them every couple times a month and
I was
do
at that point. I dialed it even more towards help. I thought, if this person wants a sandwich, I don't care if you're lying to me or not, I'm going to give it to you.
Right, exactly.
If they say they're a veteran, I'm not going to ask you for a DD-214. I'm going to give you the help that I can. If you ask me for fucking socks, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to take my socks off my feet and give them to you.
That's right. Well, carry them.
Even if you're lying to me, I don't care.
This guy was on the radio years and years and years ago. I loved this guy. He was a Southern California guy, Christian radio station, Christian radio talk show host. And I'm not just a doer of talk shows. I'm a listener of talk shows.
Nice.
And so Rich Bueller was his name. He's since gone on to his great reward. And he said, this is what I do. Guy had 7 kids or something ridiculous. So he didn't have a lot of money. And so he says, well, here's what I do. I have a allotted amount of money that I give out to the homeless or whoever asks for it. And it's per week. And at that point in time, I want to say it was like $10 or something like that. And it didn't matter who it was asking.
Yeah.
He did. So I started adopting that. $5 a week for me. It was $5 a week, and I'd go down to. This is when I was living in Portland, and there was a guy. They have Street Roots magazine. It's a newspaper. It's for homeless people, and what they do is they send them out there and they have them stand up and sell them.
Yeah.
And I said, "It's your lucky day. I haven't given out my $5 because nobody's asked me for it. This is $5 day. Here you go." And I think it's a silly. It's not a lot of money, but at least it gives you the ability to say, "I helped somebody." And they asked for it, and they got it.
But when you look at that, like in particular with homeless people, you can't know enough about the person to truly help them.
Nope.
You're not going to spend time in their lives. They don't want you in their lives. I don't care if you're going to drink it. Like, that's what you need to survive. You're on the street. If that's what you need, then great. Because they likely need that to survive as much as anything else.
Sure.
So here's $5. I don't care.
I don't care exactly. I don't care what you're going to do with it.
It's
I don't care who you
resource
are.
now.
I don't need to hear your story.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need. But when I'm one-on-one with the guys over at the shelter that I work with, I want to hear their stories.
Sure, that's different. Yeah.
It's a different thing.
Yeah.
It's a more intimate kind of a relationship.
You're not talking to someone you're walking by on the street.
I'm walking alongside these people, and I just want to know what's going on. There's a lot of jazz out there. There's a lot of it's all mental illness and it's all drugs. That's what it is. It's
the other thing,
almost all of it.
If you are the person who's scamming the system and you're making $65,000 a year panhandling, you're fucking working hard. You can find an easier job.
Remember the guy, the surfer in Pacific Beach, who got all this money, and all he did was surf all day.
Yeah.
And he got all this money from all these government programs, and his story became legion because everybody couldn't believe the guy didn't do one damn thing for this money except exist.
Yeah.
And he was making all this dough, and he was totally able-bodied.
Yeah.
He was obviously ripped. He was a surfer. He would go and he'd just pick out the right kind of seafood at the seafood counter at the Safeway. It was like, yes, well, we're going to be making sushi with this or whatever it was. It was a gobsmacker. I really do resent those people. I really do, because I'm not a moocher.
Some would call them entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Yes. I think he did call himself
In a certain light.
Yeah. I don't need a lot. I just want to surf. How can I accomplish this? Do these things.
Yep.
Hey, listen, we've had you for over an hour, and it's been awesome.
I'm so sorry.
No,
it's great.
It's great.
How long do you like to have the show? Like an hour or something?
About an hour, but give or take. The conversation's flowing, it's flowing. But so thank you for coming on, and come back.
I will. Thank you so much.
Where do people go to find out more about you? Where do you want to?
Victoria at victoriataft.com. Victoria at victoriataft.com is my email. victoriataft.com. The eponymously named victoriataft.com. Let's see. Flamingo Audiobooks is where you can find info about my audiobooks. Facebook, Victoria Taft, and everything is on my name.
And the infamous Twitter.
Oh,
which you're all over.
At Victoria Taft.
At Victoria Taft on Twitter.
Oh, and PJ Media. Find me on PJ Media. I'm writing for those guys. I love it. Those guys are awesome. Oh, yeah.